Well, we've got a press conference today with Chris Robertshaw, and it's to do with pensions. This is really going back to the beginning of the year when it was Mr. Quayle, wasn't it, who wanted to find out exactly what was going on with government pensions and that scheme. Then, of course, it was agreed in May that this would be put together, you in charge as chairman, and come back to Tynwald in December with recommendations. Now, this is our report. Let me just hold this up. It's about 40-odd pages. We've only just had a brief time to relook at it, so you're going to have to bear with us on this one. Because there's so much to take in. Can you give us the headlines, first of all, as you see them, how people who work in government now and have done will be affected by changes to their pensions, an overall view?
Well, a great deal of good work was done introducing the original GUS scheme a number of years ago.
And GUS being?
Government Unified Scheme.
That's when you brought about 15 different ones?
13 to 15 schemes, and it was a great step forward. But all the projections at that time were unable to take into account, and understandably, the degree to which government in the future, under all the pressures it now finds itself in, was going to contract to the degree it is doing. It was also not anticipated that the levels of salary and wages would be suppressed to the degree that they have. And of course, as a consequence of all this, it wasn't understood just how many people would go into retirement and take their pensions. So the quick story there is that the inflow has reduced and the outflow has increased. And it's terribly, terribly important that government acts responsibly and maintains or develops sustainability on its public sector pensions.
It's about £33 million a year shortfall at the moment?
Indeed, and what we have to do is review it, and I was asked to chair a working party which is bringing forward some proposals, as you say, to Tynwald in December, and once accepted there, if that's what happens, then we have to go into negotiations with the unions. And the sort of issues here will be that we will be saying that there will be a need to further increase the contribution levels by a further 3%. That's for the public sector themselves, and for members, Tynwald members, we're asking the contributions to double. Okay, well
we'll come to it in a minute, but for the Joe public person, because they've gone from, they've had all this put together, some went up, some went down, but now you're going to say we've got to go up again. And how quickly will that increase come in, for instance?
Well, that will be by negotiation, but we're proposing 3%, and I would think the sensible and fair way to do it would be 1% per year once the negotiations have completed, above and beyond the 1% increase per year that's already in place.
This is going to hit people, isn't it? I mean, but without it, the pension fund will dry up in about 2025, isn't it?
None of this is easy. None of this is comfortable. But I hope that at the end of it, people accept the point that what we're doing is protecting decent pensions at the end of the day.
And this accounts for most people, but not the police, not teachers, who are still linked to the UK.
And the judiciary. But we will be going into negotiations with them once we've got past go on this one.
I mean, the firemen can retire at 50, can they not? Will they still be able to do that?
Well, bear in mind that the police and teachers and the fire brigade, they do actually have significant benefits from their retirement, but that's reflected also in the contributions, Paul. So, yeah.
So it says here, many leavers in the next 5 years will not be replaced, leading to a 10% reduction in overall headcount. This is the government figures, which has also caused you problems, hasn't it?
No, what we did there was we looked back at what went wrong last time with the projections and said, okay, we can't make the same mistake again. What do we expect to happen in the next number of years? And we expect, in our estimates, that government will continue to contract if it's going to be that smaller, smarter government we keep saying that we need.
So you've actually been hit because you've got less people in government paying in contributions.
Absolutely. But to be fair, what we've tried to do is to say, okay, it's not fair to burden one particular element alone. What we've looked at is the whole scheme right across the board, including quite a number of significant changes for new starters. So we've also looked at those currently in retirement whose interests will be protected as they are, but we've also said, well, actually, if inflation accelerates at a significant rate, we were looking at negotiating a cap on that figure. So if inflation goes above a certain level, the increases would not necessarily follow.
Okay.
so on.
Let's deal with the Tynwald members now, because everyone's always heard these great stories about what a fantastic pension you can get. They were asked to contribute voluntarily initially. Now you bring them into the plan to bring them into the whole scheme, the unified scheme.
On a compulsion, the proposals we're putting forward, I think the compulsion, I think, as I understand it, already is in place for September 2016. Most members do now contribute 5%. The proposals that we're putting in place is that doubles to 10%, and also a certain reduction in the available benefits to them. But that if they want to retain the existing benefits that they would enjoy in retirement, then it would go up to 15%. So actually, the proposal is in those circumstances, we would be asking a triple contribution rate.
Is that still a generous scheme though for them?
It becomes less so, and what we're also saying is it falls into alignment with the general GUS scheme as well. We have to be seen to lead here, Paul. There are significant changes being proposed through CI 65 for the state pension. Regrettably, we're asking for further adjustments to the public sector scheme. It would be unthinkable if Tynwald members didn't step up to the plate and say, OK, we're going to take a hit here, we've got to.
Well, this is going to be in place for, 3 years, which will take through to the next election as such. But this is not necessarily the end of it. There's a lot of things that the actuaries have to keep looking at. Inflation rates, for instance, how many people are working in government, what sustainability there is, and if that pot is still... In fact, you showed us a graph that shows that it's even with adjustments, it's still going to be a bit of a shortfall.
The shortfall reduces right down, but again, to act responsibly, we have to review it every 3 years and adjust and trim accordingly. But
the interesting piece is, I suppose for a lot of people, they think there's this pot put aside for everybody that's worked in government. But that's not the case at all, is it? It's just coming out of, if there's not enough money in that particular bit of the pension coming in, the government have to make it up, is that correct?
Correct. There's a buffer of a number of millions of pounds. But it's something of a hand-to-mouth arrangement where the current contributors effectively pay the pensions for the existing current pensioners.
Are you happy that Tynwald will approve this? Because obviously this is going out to everyone today. So you've got the Tynwald members, you've got the stakeholders, the unions. You've got to get everyone on side. You confident?
I think it's going to be... I think Tynwald will accept these proposals. I believe so. I hope so. I believe that it's going to be difficult for the unions, but and for members, both payers. It's going to be difficult for the unions and their members to accept these proposals. But I'm sure in the end we'll be able to ask them to appreciate that it's for their benefit at the end of the day. We need to protect their pension funds in the future.